Twitter doesn't get JJK. With my recent videos talking about how goofy some sections of, anime fandoms can be, as well as JJK fans in particular being, some of the stupidest of the bunch, it felt right to make a video about that one Twitter thread about Gojo and Toji, as well as just JJK fans in general being absolute brainlets all over Twitter. Twitter has kind of been a melting pot for all walks of life in regards to JJK fans in particular. Some having good heads on their shoulders, and others that clearly don't. And just some that kind of post cringe in general. Like, you have people who criticize Mappa staff like absolute specimens, and then you have the kind-hearted souls that gently correct them. However, there is another type of JJK fan that lives within the wild Amazon known as Twitter, or X, which I still think is one of the dumbest names since 2XKO. Previously, I've talked about JJK fans specifically who claim to love the series whilst also never really watching it or reading it. However, here we have JJK fans who have read and watched the series, but they're the kind of people to ship characters and make assumptions and inferences about the story and misinterpret subtext to fit their chosen readings of a piece of media. Basically, a little drama has arisen from this one Twitter thread that has interpreted the scene of Toji stabbing Gojo with the inverted spear of heaven as a representation of solutions. And for brevity's sake, I'm just going to call that SA for the sake of the rest of the video. Now, it's fair to say there is a lot of disagreement within this thread, and I've been seeing memes about how MHA has passed the torch on, so to speak, in regards to its fan base being very strange theory crafters, which MHA is just kind of overall known for having one of the weirder fandoms in the world. I don't think I need to show you any of the weird fan art that's come out of it. What this boring, drawl intro boils down into is Powerscaling Son versus shipping daughter. And I'm going to be honest, shipping is an absolute disease to every fandom it's prevalent in, but so is JJK power scaling. It's an absolute cesspit as well, so I have no idea which one I'd pick, to be honest. Originally, I was going to rant and rave about how goofy I perceive this interpretation to be, and how strange it is to me, to be honest, about how sexualizing a scene like this is strange and more than likely not Gege's intended reading of this scene. I was going to do the typical YouTuber thing of calling the original poster stupid and a typical JJK fan with the reading comprehension of a doorstop. However, the author of this original thread has stated themselves that they, never stated that this interpretation was canon, but people just kind of ran with the thread and it's gained a lot of notoriety really quickly and just kind of popped up all over the internet a little bit. But it's their own interpretation of the scene and Gojo's character, which more than likely doesn't align with Gege's intentions and is very much headcanon-y. But I will say this, the creator of this thread retweets so much strange stuff, dude. Like, I was curious to see, the type of person, the type of JJK fan who would have these sorts of interpretations. And Lord have mercy, there was so much retweeted no, dude. Or as the kids call it these days, prawn. And it's not vanilla stuff either. We got pregnant Gojo, we got naked Gojo, we got naked pregnant Gojo with stretch marks, Gojo breastfeeding Yuji, two Gojos sucking dick. I don't personally care if you like that sort of stuff, to each their own, I guess. It's very much not my cup of tea, but in all seriousness in regards to the thread, and in turn, if you are quite clearly gooning for this sort of stuff all the time for very specific series and very specific characters, in my opinion, you're more than likely going to see sexual themes in parts of the series that aren't there, especially regarding characters that you openly sexualize. And on top of that, SA is a topic that is arguably already covered in JJK as a series, quite relatively overtly in regards to, Naoya and Mai, as well as with the symbolism of his transformations and domain, etc. This topic has been covered, and you don't need to invent and interpret new subtext for a battle between Gojo and Toji, and in turn Gojo's character overall, to paint this fight as a representation of SA. But yes, at the same time, there is the concept of death of the author, which is basically the idea that, once a piece of media is created, the initial intention and intended reading the author was, planning for is irrelevant, because it's kind of out of their hands once it gets to the public, as it's up to the audience to interpret it in whatever way they want. So you can interpret any story any way you want, right? Technically speaking. As with this kind of interpretation, however, since the original author of the thread has acknowledged that it's, not canon, it's just kind of their own thoughts, this interpretation isn't inherently, a negative thing. Yes, it is a bit peculiar in my opinion, it's very much not my cup of tea, and I think it's a logical leap if someone were to believe this was Gege's original intention, to have this be the meaning behind this scene. However, The posts of themselves, as I said, say that they never said it was canon, and people just kind of made the thread really popular, and it kind of just blew out of proportion, so to speak. People can do what they want in regards to interpreting art, even if it is a bit, of a strange interpretation. And on top of that, it seems like a lot of people reacting to the thread that were reacting positively to it kind of acknowledge this interpretation of Gojo being stabbed as a representation of SA. Some people who are reacting to this thread in a good way almost use the thread and in turn the scene as a reflection of their own past traumas and experiences with similar stuff, which is fine. People seem to be discussing their own experiences with similar things when reacting to this thread, which is great for them. But it is still quite peculiar that it has resulted from, a strange interpretation of this particular scene. It's quite peculiar, in my opinion. Am I saying you are wrong for attempting to interpret the story in this way? No, it's your right to do so. That's kind of how art works, but it's also my right to wholly disagree with it. But I will say, in regards to these sorts of interpretations of shonen specifically, people who engage in shipping a lot tend to have some of the more overtly sexual headcanons and interpretations of series. I mean, we all saw this all the time with My Hero Academia, so I'm not surprised that someone who engages so heavily in shipping and stuff like that interpreted this scene, specifically of Gojo getting stabbed by Toji, as one that had an underlying dark sexual theme. Shippers just tend to have these types of headcanons. It's just kind of peculiar. I'm gonna be honest, man, you can read into a character's relationships and say, oh, there's probably something there or whatever, sure, but it's always shippers that tend to have these overtly sexual headcanons for characters and doesn't much seem to adhere to what the author was intending. At the end of the day, in regards to this thread in particular, because I want to move on, the best way I can cap off my opinion on this entire thread is a bit weird, but there was this one response from this one dude called Ghetto's Big Cock, and I kind of agree with them for the most part, in spite of their goofy name. And I'm just gonna quote them. It's an interesting and well-written thread for people who relate. I don't know why people are taking it as canon though, when it's obviously not. And I think that's the best way to describe this. It's quite well put for someone with such a strange name. It's a well put together thread with some interesting parallels with the historical version of the Inverted Spear of Heaven and the version we see within JJK. Are the parallels that were drawn here intentional by Gege? I highly doubt it, but someone discussing them in such a manner isn't an inherently negative thing. To be honest, this thread seems as if it just fell out of a specific niche part of the JJK fandom, so to speak, and just appeared in front of the average JJK fans who overtly disagree with it, which is perfectly fine and reasonable to disagree with this thread, as I do as well. But I retain the right to call this headcanon and interpretation goofy as hell. But people are using it to discuss their own personal experiences with similar things, which is a good thing. Obviously, it goes without saying I bear no ill will to the creator of this thread, and neither should you. Overall, while I do think it is pretty strange, it's perfectly harmless. Don't harass people or anything like that. Harassing is a bad thing, obviously. Idiot. But with that out the way, let's get into a more annoying part of JJK on Twitter as a whole. And there are two sections into this specifically, right? Though there's more than two, but there's two I want to focus on most. And both of those groups that I want to discuss of JJK fans on Twitter are both idiots. So every week on Thursday, with exception for this week because season 3 is on a break, we get a new leak on Thursday as well as the most recent episode. And as a result, we get an outcry of two groups at the same time on Twitter in regards to JJK, and they are genuinely stupid. So the one that's easier to discuss, that is, I feel like most people will agree with, people who complain about season 3 on Twitter are the most obnoxious and stupid people. People who complain are either rage baiting or are genuinely just fools. If you are watching season 3 as it is airing right now, you can have complaints. As I said previously, you can have any interpretations and can critique art in any way you see fit. But if your entire analysis and critique is just, or they didn't show this one panel of Kashimo, or they didn't show this one panel of Gojo and Toji, ergo the entire episode's of dog water, you stink. You are a genuine fool. You do not go on Twitter to it and expect high IQ. It's stupid. For example, as I say, if we go on the anime side, we had the people complaining about the Naoya stuff. We had people who obviously criticised the Jinichi walk, which I think is fair enough. In regards to the anime, I think it just boils down to JJK anime fans are some of the most spoiled brats when it comes to anime. JJK has to realise, right? When it comes to anime treatment, JJK has had some of the best treatment from manga to anime, transition, possible. People like to chat absolute wham about season 3, but as soon as it's rumoured that Gojo might be leaving, everyone's immediately thinking part 2 of season 3 is going to look like One Punch Man season 3. Like, dog, just JJK Twitter is an absolute cesspit. Like, you get anime episodes that are like movie quality every week, but people just feel the need to complain because one Kashimo panel is slightly different. Oh my lord. To just show how dumb JJK fans can be, I think I'm going to blare out their name because I'd be embarrassed if this was me too. But if you ever think JJK fans are dumb, you are right, because we literally have JJK fans being so goofy that they have to ask Grok what the rules are for the culling games in response to a clip of Yuta discussing the rules of the culling games, all for Grok to get all the rules wrong because it says there's only 6 rules. Like, dog. JJK fans are the type of people that type at Grok. Holy shit. Let's go talk about Modulo really quick in regards to JJK Twitter, because that's also incessantly annoying, because leak culture can have a whole video on itself, because leak culture in regards to JJK and specifically is completely ridiculous, and it's like kind of not a heavy topic because it's not like depressing, but it's kind of a loaded topic because JJK is inherent to like is a very big part of the culture that formed around it, which sounds a lot deeper than it is. But you know, like all the memes and how specific in jokes and things around JJK formed, as leaks were part of that. But in modern leak culture in the present in regards to Modulo, oh my lord, we have people who read Google Translate leaks, or people who just look at the pictures and don't even translate and don't even know what the words mean, making fan theories, but not even theories, just stating things as if they were true. Oh, this must be Yuji's granddaughter. Obviously. Oh no, she's a 6-eyes user. Oh no, she's Megami and Hannah's grandchild. We know nothing about her. You probably don't even remember her name, by the way. She's called Miyaguni, if you didn't know. She's had a name. She's been showing up throughout, you know, pretty consistently within the series so far of Modulo. But everyone just immediately, they don't theory craft, they just state outright. It's so annoying. And since JJK fans will read these leaks immediately, and they all have the IQ of a 1x1 Lego brick or 2 marbles inside a can of beans, they just, bruh. Another little Twitter profile I'd like to just also mention, Kree is also always just saying stupid shit for people to point and laugh at. This dude tweets some cringe sometimes. It's pretty good. But overall, because Twitter as a platform is so open, and, you know, people can say what they want for the most part, you will see some actual lobotomites getting a lot of exposure. And because of that, the average JJK fan, the human equivalent of a wet sock, because you have absolute lobotomites talking absolute dog water, and then other lobotomites listen and assume it's fact, and it's literally the blind leading the blind on JJK Twitter. I can't overstate it. Holy Christ. Whenever Thursday drops, I used to be hyped to see all the slander and memes. There is a little bit of that now. Obviously, it peaked at Sukuna and Gojo, which was great. But nowadays, it's just people theory crafting, just drawing conclusions out of nowhere. It's really goofy and speaking as if it's fact. When leaks come out, we don't even have full translations. And leakers are such absolute, sorry for the language here, friggin' Humpty Dumpties. They like hide all the text so we can't translate it all because leakers are absolute penises. Like, oh my god. JJK Twitter sucks. This has just become a rant. Okay, like a lot of my previous videos, this is like not heavily scripted. This is just me yapping for a certain period of time and then cutting it down a bunch. And me just putting Maharaga skating on screen for a while, which a lot of people seem to enjoy. And for those who ask, so I don't get any more comments asking, the game is called Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, okay? Get it. It's peak. Just look at your screen. Maharaga doing kickflips? Hell yeah. But not much else to say, lads. Let me know if you think JJK Twitter is as much of a cesspit as I do. And yeah. Cheers, my doodles. Hope I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Also, if you go to my Patreon, I'll make 10 more videos about Kusakabe. Peace.